Well, one of the best in this studio, anyway.
How about one of the best sitting in this chair? How about
Yeah. Do you have to practice every day?
Imagine it's 1967, and a wild-haired left-handed guitarist from Seattle is about to flip the entire music world upside down. Jimi Hendrix didn't just play guitar, he made love to it, tortured it, and set it on fire both literally and figuratively. But here's what most people don't know about the man who redefined rock and roll. He was obsessed with other musicians in ways that bordered on spiritual devotion.
very instant. It's going to go on happening for maybe about another month or two, you know.
While the world saw Hendrix as this untouchable guitar god who seemed to channel music from another dimension, behind closed doors he was constantly studying, dissecting, and worshiping at the altar of his musical heroes. Some of these relationships were built on pure admiration, others simmered with competitive fire, and a few were downright explosive. From blues legends who laid the foundation for his sound to rock revolutionaries who pushed him to new heights, these 7 artists didn't just influence Hendrix, they consumed him. Prepare to discover the shocking truth about which bands and musicians truly owned pieces of Jimi's soul, including our #1 pick that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the greatest guitarist who ever lived. Number 7. Muddy Waters. Before Jimi Hendrix became a household name, he was just another young guitarist desperately searching for his sound in the smoky clubs of Nashville and Memphis. Then he heard Muddy Waters, and everything changed forever. Waters wasn't just playing blues, he was electrifying it, transforming ancient Delta pain into pure sonic thunder that could shake buildings and souls alike. The first time Hendrix witnessed Waters perform live in Chicago, he stood transfixed in the back of the club, watching this master bend notes with such raw emotion that grown men wept openly. Waters had taken the acoustic traditions of Robert Johnson and Son House and plugged them into Marshall amplifiers, creating something entirely new and terrifyingly powerful. In 1968, backstage at the Fillmore East, Waters pulled young Jimi aside and shared something that would haunt him for years. He told close friends that Waters looked him dead in the eye and said the electric guitar was meant to cry tears that acoustic guitars could never shed. This wasn't just musical advice. It was a spiritual transmission from the godfather of electric blues to his most gifted disciple. Waters taught Hendrix that volume wasn't about noise, but about reaching the deepest parts of human emotion that whispers could never touch. Every screaming feedback note Jimi ever played carried Waters' DNA. Number 6. The Beatles. The Beatles represented everything Jimi Hendrix simultaneously craved and despised about the music industry. Here were 4 musicians from Liverpool who had conquered the world with melodies and harmonies, while Hendrix was still grinding it out in dive bars, unknown and unappreciated. The jealousy was eating him alive, but so was his genuine admiration for their revolutionary songwriting. The moment that changed everything happened just 3 days after Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band hit the shelves. Hendrix opened his London show by performing the title track note for note, stunning an audience that included Paul McCartney himself. McCartney later confided to music journalists that watching Hendrix transform their carefully crafted studio masterpiece into raw, live electricity was both thrilling and terrifying. But behind the mutual respect lurked serious tension. Hendrix whispered to his manager that he was tired of being called the Black Beatles by the press. He wanted to be known as the musician who made the Beatles sound tame. The competitive fire burned so intensely that he would spend hours dissecting their arrangements, looking for weaknesses he could exploit with his guitar wizardry. Their relationship was a perfect storm of artistic respect and commercial envy, pushing Hendrix to prove that technical mastery could be just as powerful as pop perfection. Number 5. Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan didn't just influence Jimi Hendrix's music, he completely rewired his brain about what rock and roll could accomplish. Before Dylan, Hendrix thought songs were just vehicles for guitar solos and sexual energy. Dylan showed him that 3 chords and the truth could topple governments and change the world. The transformation began when Hendrix heard like a Rolling Stone for the first time in a Greenwich Village apartment. He mentioned in interviews that Dylan's ability to pack entire novels into 4-minute songs made him feel like a musical caveman. This was storytelling on a level that made traditional blues seem almost primitive by comparison. The ultimate validation came when Dylan himself praised Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower, calling it definitive and admitting that Hendrix had found meanings in the song that even he hadn't realized were there. This wasn't just professional courtesy. Dylan rarely acknowledged other artists' interpretations of his work. Hendrix began incorporating Dylan's stream of consciousness lyrical style into songs like Purple Haze and Voodoo Child, creating psychedelic narratives that were part autobiography, part fever dream. Dylan had taught him that the guitar was just one instrument. Words could be just as explosive as feedback when wielded by a master. Number 4. Cream. When Cream burst onto the London scene in 1966, they didn't just play music. They created sonic earthquakes that left audiences physically shaken and emotionally devastated. For Jimi Hendrix, watching Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker demolish conventional song structures was like witnessing the birth of a new religion. The legendary jam session at a small London club changed everything. Hendrix had been invited to sit in, and what followed was a musical conversation between him and Clapton that left everyone else in the room feeling like they were eavesdropping on gods. Clapton later told close associates that Hendrix played with such ferocious creativity that night that he considered quitting guitar altogether. But this wasn't just about technical prowess. Cream had proven that 3 musicians could generate more raw power than entire orchestras. They showed Hendrix that volume and virtuosity weren't enemies, but lovers who could create beautiful chaos together. Their use of Marshall stacks turned up to 11 became Hendrix's sonic blueprint for assault. The competitive dynamic between Hendrix and Clapton became the stuff of rock legend, with each pushing the other to increasingly dangerous musical territories. Cream had shown him that being a power trio meant each member had to play like their life depended on it. Number 3. The Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones were everything polite society feared about rock and roll, and Jimi Hendrix was absolutely mesmerized by their dangerous authenticity. While other bands played at being rebellious, the Stones lived it, breathed it, and nearly died from it on multiple occasions. They showed Hendrix that rock music could be a weapon of mass seduction and social destruction. Mick Jagger's stage presence was pure sexual theater, mixed with genuine menace, something that hit Hendrix like a lightning bolt during their first shared bill in 1969. Jagger moved like a predator stalking prey, using his entire body as an instrument of provocation. Hendrix revealed to band members that watching Jagger taught him how to turn guitar playing into full-body performance art. Keith Richards became Hendrix's secret obsession for entirely different reasons. While everyone focused on Richards' lead guitar work, Hendrix was studying his rhythm playing, those dirty, open-tuned riffs that sounded like they were carved from granite and soaked in whiskey. Richards had discovered that sometimes the most powerful musical moments came from restraint, not excess. The Stones proved that rock and roll wasn't about being liked, it was about being unforgettable. They lived on the edge of disaster, professionally and personally, showing Hendrix that true artistic authenticity required genuine risk. Their influence pushed him toward the darker, more experimental territories that defined his later work. Number 2. Little Richard. Before Jimi Hendrix became a guitar god, he was just another sideman grinding it out on the Chitlin circuit, and his most brutal teacher was Little Richard himself. Richard didn't just perform, he exploded across stages like a human firework, teaching young Jimi that music without theatricality was just organized noise. Working as Richard's backing guitarist was like attending a masterclass in controlled chaos. Richard demanded perfection while simultaneously encouraging complete abandonment, a paradox that nearly drove Hendrix insane. The flamboyant pioneer would scream at his band members one minute, then embrace them like family the next, creating an atmosphere of intense creative pressure. Richard admitted years later that he saw something special in the quiet left-handed guitarist who could make his Stratocaster weep and wail like a human voice. But he also recognized that Hendrix was too revolutionary for the constraints of traditional R&B, constantly pushing boundaries that Richard himself had established decades earlier. The most important lesson came through pure observation. Richard showed Hendrix that audiences didn't just want to hear music, they wanted to witness transformation. Every performance had to be a religious experience, a moment where the ordinary world disappeared and something magical took its place. This understanding became the foundation of everything Hendrix would later accomplish as a solo artist. Number 1. Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions. Here's the revelation that will shock every guitar fanatic who thinks they know Jimi Hendrix's influences. His number 1 musical obsession wasn't a blues legend or rock pioneer, but Curtis Mayfield, the soft-spoken genius from Chicago who revolutionized guitar playing without anyone noticing. While other guitarists were focused on speed and volume, Mayfield was creating entirely new harmonic possibilities using alternative tunings that made traditional chord progressions sound ancient. Hendrix once declared privately that Mayfield's guitar work on songs like People Get Ready contained more innovation than entire albums by his more famous contemporaries. The technical influence was profound and immediate. Mayfield's use of major 7th and 9th chords, combined with his unique tuning methods, gave Hendrix the harmonic vocabulary that would define classics like Little Wing and The Wind Cries Mary. These weren't typical blues or rock progressions, they were sophisticated jazz-influenced voicings that created entirely new emotional landscapes. But the deeper influence was philosophical. Mayfield showed Hendrix that guitar music could carry messages of social consciousness without sacrificing beauty or accessibility. The Impressions proved that you could change the world through gentle persuasion rather than aggressive confrontation, a lesson that would shape Hendrix's approach to addressing civil rights and war through his music. This unexpected choice reveals the true depth of Hendrix's musical intelligence. He recognized genius wherever he found it, regardless of genre or commercial success. So there you have it. The 7 artists who secretly shaped the legend of Jimi Hendrix, from Muddy Waters' Electric Blues Foundation to Curtis Mayfield's surprising harmonic genius. These weren't just influences, they were obsessions that consumed one of music's greatest minds. Which pick shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.